Hello Red Case listeners, welcome back to the channel where we uncover true crime stories from across the world, some solved, some still wrapped in mystery. As always, we hope you're doing well, staying safe, and taking care of each other. Today's story is one of silence, secrets, and the shocking discovery made by a child decades after his mother vanished. It's a case that began with a young woman's disappearance and ended with her being found buried in the very place where she once lived. This is the story of Bonnie Haim, a wife, a mother, a woman who tried to leave an abusive relationship and vanished days before she could, and it would take over 20 years, and the innocent curiosity of a child, to finally unearth the truth. Let's go back to where it all began. Bonnie Lynn Haim was just 23 years old when she vanished from her Jacksonville, Florida home in January of 1993. To those who knew her, she was a kind, sweet, soft-spoken woman who worked as an accounts payable clerk for a local construction supplier company, one that her husband, Michael Haim, worked for as well. The couple had been married for about 5 years and had a 3-year-old son named Aaron. On the surface, they appeared like any normal young family, just trying to build a life together. But behind closed doors, Bonnie's reality was very different. She was unhappy, trapped in a marriage filled with emotional and physical abuse. She had told family and friends that Michael was controlling, possessive, and at times violent. According to co-workers, she showed up to work with bruises on her arms. Bonnie confided in one close friend that Michael would often fly into rages, accusing her of cheating and berating her in front of their child. Bonnie wanted out, and she had started to plan for her escape. In late 1992, Bonnie secretly opened a bank account in her own name. She didn't want Michael to know she was putting money aside. Each paycheck, she would set a small portion aside, saving up to move into a new apartment with little Aaron. She even applied to rent an apartment nearby. She was planning on leaving Michael for good, but that plan never got to happen. On January 6, 1993, Bonnie went to work like usual. She had dinner with co-workers that evening, laughed, chatted, and said she was going home to put her son to bed. That was the last time anyone outside the family ever saw Bonnie Haim alive. The next morning, Bonnie didn't show up for work. Her co-workers were immediately alarmed. It was very unlike her not to call or show up. One of her friends even tried calling the house, but Michael said Bonnie had left after an argument the night before and never came home. That same day, Bonnie's purse was found tossed in a trash bin behind a nearby Red Roof Inn. Her ID, credit cards, and keys were still inside. That raised major red flags. And then, just hours later, her car was found abandoned at the Jacksonville airport. No tickets. No sign she boarded a flight. Nothing. The police were suspicious from the start. Everything pointed to foul play. Michael Haim told police that Bonnie had left the house after an argument around 11 p.m., taking her purse and keys. He said she drove off, and he never saw her again, but that didn't line up with the evidence. If she took her purse, why was it found in a hotel dumpster? Why was her car abandoned at the airport? And she never boarded any flight. Michael also refused to take a polygraph test and didn't help with the search. Instead, he quickly lawyered up and filed for custody of Aaron, and yet, with no body, no physical evidence, and no confession, the case stalled. Then came the most haunting twist. 3-year-old Aaron began talking. He told family members, and even child services, a chilling story. Daddy hurt Mommy. Mommy is in the swimming pool. Mommy's in the ground. These weren't things a toddler could make up. Investigators interviewed him, and he repeated the same things, clearly, consistently. He told them he saw Michael hurt Bonnie, but again, there was no body. The authorities had suspicions, but without physical proof, the case was cold. In the years that followed, Michael Haim sold the house on Dolphin Avenue and moved on with his life. He even changed Aaron's last name to Fraser to match his own new identity, but Aaron never forgot. As he grew older, he began asking questions. He'd been told his mother abandoned him, but in his heart, he never believed that was true. Fast forward to 2014, Aaron Fraser, now 24 years old, had grown up and had the legal right to take ownership of his childhood home on Dolphin Avenue. It had been part of a civil suit settlement where he sued his father for wrongful death, and won. While doing some renovations on the backyard, he started demolishing an old concrete fountain area near the pool. That's when the shovel hit something hard. As he dug, bones started to surface, not just bones, a skull, a plastic bag with human remains, pieces of a woman's hair. It was Bonnie Haim, buried in the backyard, just a few feet from where their son had played as a child. When Aaron Fraser unearthed the plastic bag containing a skull, hair, and other bones in 2014, the news spread like wildfire. For 21 years, Bonnie Haim had been missing. Now, her body had been found, buried just inches below the surface, in the backyard of the very home she shared with Michael. Aaron was in shock. He had always suspected that his father was involved in his mother's disappearance, but nothing prepared him for the moment he realized he had been living on top of her grave. Investigators quickly secured the area. The remains were collected, and forensic anthropologists began examining what was left. They discovered that the skull had a small hole near the left eye socket, a likely gunshot wound. It was the break detectives had waited decades for. It didn't take long for authorities to act. In August 2015, more than 22 years after Bonnie disappeared, Michael Haim was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The arrest sent shockwaves through the Jacksonville community. Most had assumed Bonnie had run away, or that the case had gone cold for good. Now, it seemed, justice was finally catching up. Michael, now in his 50s, appeared frail and soft-spoken when he was taken into custody. But prosecutors believed he had spent 2 decades hiding a terrible truth, and that the evidence, though old, was strong enough to prove murder. I was just digging a hole, and I hit something. I didn't expect it to be her, but in my heart, I knew it was. The court also heard from family members, child protection workers, and former co-workers who testified about Bonnie's abuse and fear of Michael in the months leading up to her death. Forensic experts testified that the hole in Bonnie's skull was consistent with a small caliber gunshot wound, possibly from a .22 or .25 caliber handgun. It wasn't just the skull. Fibers in the bag matched the carpeting from the Haim home. Dirt from the burial site was consistent with the soil beneath the concrete slab in the backyard. Even though so much time had passed, the evidence painted a chilling picture. Bonnie had likely been killed inside the house, her body wrapped up and buried in the backyard, while their toddler son slept inside. Michael's defense attorneys argued that the evidence was circumstantial. They claimed there was no eyewitness, no murder weapon, and no direct proof that Michael had pulled the trigger. They even questioned Aaron's childhood memories, suggesting they were implanted or misremembered, but the jury didn't buy it. Too many pieces fit together: the abuse, the disappearance, the toddler's words, the buried body in the backyard of the man accused. In April 2019, after just a few hours of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict: guilty. Michael Haim was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Bonnie Haim had finally received justice, not because of police work alone, but because her son, Aaron, had refused to forget. The child who once tried to tell the world what happened had grown into the man who helped solve the mystery. Aaron Fraser has spoken openly about the emotional toll of the case. He said he always believed his mother didn't leave him. That he knew, deep down, she was still there. He said, "I was standing on top of her the whole time. I played in that yard. I had no idea." Bonnie Haim is now buried with dignity, her real story known. The case has become a haunting reminder of how domestic violence can end in tragedy, and how secrets, even buried for decades, don't stay hidden forever. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this powerful and heartbreaking story. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic abuse, Please don't stay silent. Help is available. No one should live in fear. We'll see you next time, right here on Red Case, where we bring to light the true stories behind the headlines, because every victim deserves to be heard. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and as always, stay safe.